Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new Disney Heroes Battle Mode video. Now, I had a comment yesterday asking me about a freeze team and who I suggest, who I would use, etc, etc. So, I haven't actually used a freeze team for a while. Now, I certainly don't have a freeze team leveled up, but what I will do is give you my kind of basic concept on who I'd suggest for a freeze team. Now, when I say like freeze team or stun team or whatever, charm team, what I like to do is every single character on that team has to have freeze. And that's always the way that I go through with it. Now, of course, we've got some new characters. I haven't actually really given Anna a huge proper look. She is quite powerful. She is a freeze character and her special does hit everybody. But again, I haven't really had a huge focus on Anna, so I'm not particularly clued up with her. Like I said, I quite like her special here, where she taunts and the Earth Giant dashes through the enemy team, distract them for 8 seconds. She gains loads of do it, but that doesn't actually do Ice move, that one. It's the Ice Sword that does. Anna pulls out a Frozen Sword, flailing it around at nearby enemies. Enemies hit are frozen and take fantastic damage. If the enemies are already frozen, their freeze duration is extended. So that is quite good, but really that's the only ice move that she's got. So I kind of knock her off the list. And the best character for freezing, in my opinion, has to be Mr. Big. So if we are going to form a team of 5, Mr. Big should be on your team. He is absolutely fantastic. He does loads of damage. You can have a look at his detailed stats here. He's a control type, so he does the control type of the tank. It's nice to basically try and have one of each character as a... I know that I don't think there are any support types in the sense of freeze characters off the top of my head, but I suggest you have Mr. Big, and there's 2 reasons for that. His polar freeze here is overpowered. Mr. Big gives a signal to ice all enemies, scaring them for 8 seconds and then freeze them for 11. So one of the biggest things to take away here is that he's freezing them for 11 seconds. And to be honest with you, Mr. Big is more of a tank than a control type character in my opinion. He's really going to be able to take a lot of damage, plus he stays up at the front as well. So having Mr. Big is going to allow you to control those enemies with his, where's the move where he comes and takes someone away? When an enemy is scared while frozen, the remaining duration of freeze is increased. And obviously when he does his roar, he scares everybody. Yeah, this is the one. So this is quite nice. The one where he grabs someone in the bag, takes away, puts them down, and they're frozen. So it really does allow you to control. And that's obviously the main purpose of him. So you click to use a special, everybody freezes. And then you go onto the one request, he grabs someone in the bag, and then they're frozen as well. So you can see if you go onto his... skill tags, freeze, 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 freeze. So 3 of his 4 moves are going to freeze, and that one's just a big punch around the face. So it's really, really good. So I recommend Mr. Big as a priority for a freeze team, and even not a freeze team. Mr. Big is a phenomenal character. So there we go. So Mr. Big is number 1. So now we want to be looking at the next freeze character. So, let me quickly upgrade patch of skills. There we go. So the next freeze character. Now, there are a couple of controversial freeze characters I'm going to drop in. So I always have to put Elsa in. She was fantastic before a rework, and she was made even better after a rework. So we're going to have Mr. Big as control, then we're going to have Elsa. Now, I haven't used Elsa for a while. That doesn't mean she's a bad character. I get swept up in the meta of this game, and whenever a new character comes out, I just max them out. It's a bit annoying, but that is the process to stay on top in this game. So of course we can go into the skill tags. 1, 2, 3 all have ice damage. So her actual skill is very, very powerful. She does a blizzard and it damages everybody. Now unfortunately that doesn't actually freeze people, but it's nice again that you've got a character who's doing max damage to everybody. So you've got Mr. Big, freezes everybody, then use Elsa to ice strike and hit everybody. Then we've got Cold Sap, blast close enemy and freezes them for 10 seconds. That's very, very good, and that's always going to prioritize the tank, meaning you can push through the tank and attack the enemies behind, basically. And then we've got Icy Blast. She brings down the Icy Barrage on the furthest enemy. So again, what we have here is she controls the tank at the front and she also controls the the healer at the back. So you're going to be able to freeze the tank and freeze the healer, meaning that those middle people are going to be opened up for you to absolutely destroy. And then we've got getting colder. Elsa deals 70% more damage to frozen and slowed enemies. So of course what we have is Mr. Big freezing everybody. Then Elsa comes in and uses... So you'd use Mr. Big's special first. Everybody's frozen. Then you'd use Elsa's special. Ting. Boom. Explodes. Everybody takes 75% more damage. Pretty solid. So that's really good there. So I'd have Elsa and Mr. Big as my main two. And then for my next one, now this is the one that could be a little bit controversial. So I like to use Kristoff here. Yeah, he is actually a support type character. So I said that I wasn't actually sure if I thought Kristoff was a tank. That's how much I know. So I like to have Kristoff in because, again, he's only got 2 moves that freeze. But what I like about Kristoff is his main special here. So this allows you to put a healer into your freeze team. So a troll appears and heals Kristoff and his allies for X amount of HP and increases their armor. So what we've got there is we've got healing and we've got an armor buff to your freeze team. So we've got Elsa, Mr. Big getting healed and buffed by Kristoff. And then we've got Best Buddies. He summons his friend, which of course is the reindeer, which is Seven or Sven. At the beginning of each wave, he has loads of health and blah, 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 does the normal stuff. So he's just another ally, which is nice to basically waste a little damage. Plus this guy kind of looks like me, so I allow that. Then we've got Slippery Slide. He slides a block of ice across the battlefield, hitting the closest enemy in the area. Enemies hit are knocked back and frozen for 10 seconds. So again, that normally does slide through most people. That's another huge wave of ice being done there. Kristoff increases the duration of all allies' freezes. So again here, this one is phenomenal to have on with Elsa and Mr. Big. Mr. Big uses his special, everyone's frozen. It gets increased to 35%. Then Elsa does her special. Then Elsa freezes everybody. Then Elsa does loads of damage. So, you know, you've got a really, really nice buff there. So that's why that works really well, and that's the one about Sven dying, so that, you know, that's okay. And every 3 basic attacks, Sven does more damage. So we've got a very solid push of damage and things happening there, which is very, very good. So that's why I'd recommend we put Sven in. Of course, I haven't actually got his red skill yet, but this is just my opinion. If I was going to work on a red team and get them all maxed out, these are the 3 characters I do at the moment. So those are 3. We've got 2 supports, 1 attack. Now we need 2 more. So what I would do in this sense is actually, this is the one where I am going to give you 6 characters, but for the main team, I'm going to go 4 would be Olaf. He actually did get a rework as well, but there's many times when I fight Olaf with even like a trashy team, and he's always kind of in the lead. And it's for one reason. He freezes on his top 2 moves. Right, and if you look at his main move here, Olaf forms a snow blizzard around himself, freezing enemies for 4 seconds while healing himself. Now you've got to remember he's a tank, so when you activate his special, he puts the ice around him, and he's up close to people. They're going to keep freezing. It's fantastic, plus he heals to keep himself alive. And then we've got, he dodges a melee attack, so again, really good for a tank class. Releases a frost cloud that freezes and damages enemies, so that does do a lot of damage and freezing as well. So we've got a solid tank for freezing. Now, this is my favorite thing about him, is when he dies, he comes back, which means he's basically got 2 lives and you can almost use his special immediately. So that's kind of the main reason. But after enemies are frozen by any source, their movement and attack speed is slowed. So again, Olaf is going to Mr. Big is going to freeze everybody. Kristoff's going to extend it. Then you use Elsa's move for a special, which is going to damage everybody. Then you jump in and use, and then Olaf comes in afterwards when they come out, and then they're slowed for a further 4 seconds afterwards. So we've got a really, really cool combo there. And of course, Olaf heals per second per frozen enemy. So again, after Olaf has frozen everybody, after Mr. Big has frozen, there's too many names, he's just going to swag around and heal. So really, having Olaf as a tank in a freeze team is fantastic, mainly just for his red skill. I think I've got him to 6 stars. I think I've got a few of his shards spare, you know. Yeah, I've got 564 spare, yeah. Okay, and then the final character I would use, which is probably the one which is a little bit controversial, is I drop Warlian. And there's one reason for this. Now, I haven't covered the other characters' discs. Really, I will quickly flick back through them for you, but the main reason I recommend Wally is because here, so he flies through all the enemies and freezes them for 5 seconds. So that's a phenomenal special. So you can use that straight after Mr. Big's. So Mr. Big freeze, Wally freeze, extend from Kristoff, damage from Elsa, and then heal from Olaf. And then we've got, that's so he can just get a special quickly. It's okay, that one. Creates a garbage box. That's pretty rubbish as well. And that one's not particularly great. But the main thing I like about Wally is his friendship disc here. So disable length to Wally and allies. So 3% disable is fantastic. Allies gain 7 energy when they disable an enemy. Now an enemy will be disabled when they're frozen. That's classed as disabling them. When you disable an enemy, that means that they can't do anything. So can grant energy to at least one ally. So I like that, and it makes it really, really effective for that type of team. Now I haven't actually, again, this is what I'm saying, I haven't unlocked this, but this is what I would do if I was building a freeze team. So I'd have that disc on Wally. His special's going to freeze everybody and everyone's going to keep regaining stamina. Just look at him, swag him. So that's what I'd do. Now to retrace my steps and just tell you what's friendship disc to use, if I go back to, where is Olaf? If I go back to Olaf, so his friendship disc, what I would use here, so enemies affected, so max HP, which is okay. Enemies affected by this memory disc can take a max of damage. Enemies that are frozen, while already frozen, take 5% of their max HP. It's fantastic damage. Brilliant. Because you could use Mr. Big special, then you could drop in and use... So I wonder, so I've got that to a pretty decent level. Not really by trying, to be honest, but what that's done is allowed enemies to take 20% of damage if they're frozen and they get frozen again, which is ridiculous because obviously it's a freeze team, so that's very good. And this one here isn't really that great, so I would recommend using Olaf's one if you were to go down the route of a freeze team. That would certainly be the way to go. Let's get his one in there so we can max it out. And I'll get that ready for when I use him. So that's Olaf ready to go. Then after Olaf, I was talking about Elsa. Now I have got Elsa to a relatively good level, but if I was going to use one of her discs, I've got Olaf's one at the moment, and it's here. Max HP, 7, and he gives a load of shield for the tank roll allies at the start of each wave. Now I really like that one because what it allows is it would allow Olaf to get a tasty shield, just keeping him alive for a lot longer. But this one's quite nice as well. So freezes from any source, freeze control roll enemies for longer. Now I like that, but it's only limited to control rolls. That's why I like to give the tank a shield at the start, and it gives Elsa a lot of HP. But both of hers are relatively useful, so just bear that in mind. Okay, so then we've done Olaf, and then we had Kristoff, and we had Mr. Big. So with Mr. Big, if we go into his discs, the one I'm using at the moment is this one actually. I can level it up a fair amount. So Mr. Big gains 40% energy each time the enemy is frozen. Now it doesn't say from him. So what this means is every single time the enemy is frozen, he gets a special backup, which means he can use his roar quicker, which is phenomenal. And then if you combo him with Wally's disc, and after he's disabled people, he's going to get his special up even sooner, which means he can roar, leaving that whole team frozen. So we've got skill power, and then enemies lose reality while they're scared. Enemies lose reality when they're frozen, which is nice because it lowers their defense and health, which is brilliant. So actually, I do need to get involved a little bit more with trying to get that friendship mission completed a little bit more. But the struggle I was having on this one was, of course, that... oh, I might be able to do it now, actually. Maybe I just stopped doing it for some reason. So I can probably get through Mr. Big's one here. Yeah, I wonder. Let's just spam it. All Kermit. Yeah, this is going to be easy. His one's quite easy, Mr. Big's overall level as well. Which, again, is, you know, it's always quite nice when they keep it nice and easy for you. You know, you can't complain about it. So I get the 3 stars now. I'm not going to smash through that all now. You don't need to see that. But, yeah, It's a relatively good disc, his one, so it's worth investing in and just making sure that you can get it maxed out. Like I said, I should probably do that because it will be quite nice to have his disc maxed out there. So then we've got one character left, which is Kristoff. So if we go into Kristoff here, we can see that his friendship disc. So I haven't actually really looked at his ones when someone's in combat. Allies heal, that's pretty decent. So again, I've actually got quite a lot of shards for that one. I don't know why I have so many shards for that. I wonder if I probably won't be able to, but that's going to be the best one. Because then everybody's going to be healing as well. Ooh, yeah, that's really good actually. I didn't quite realize how good that move was. I wonder if we can just, yeah, probably not. I didn't think so. But that is my freeze team for you, and I wanted to give a honorable mention to a fantastic damage type character in the freeze team as well. How do you spell her name? So if you use her friendship disc, here, every third arrow freezes enemies for a good amount of time. You can upgrade it. So when she uses her skill here and fires loads of arrows, it freezes a lot of people as well. There we go. So that is my freeze team for you. So if I go into here, so it is Mr. Big, Elsa, Kristoff, Olaf. I always struggle to find the last person. So we got Mr. Big, we got Olaf, and then it was Wally because of his awesome stamina move. Oh, I did not mean to do that. So that is my freeze team. I want you to comment down below your freeze teams, but this answers a question that I had on a video. I'm just going to shout out the person's name. I do apologize. I cannot remember who left the comment down. And if my computer would load, I would find the cheeky comment. Let's have a look. Where are we? Yeah, sorry, it's Cashon P. Cashon P. Brilliant idea. Here's a freeze team. Smash out my top tier freeze team. Hope you've enjoyed the video, guys. Smash the like and subscribe button, and I'll see you beauties in the next one.